You know, like the second-hand car dealership guy that used to do their own adverts on local radio? That's what comedians have become now. Because I was acutely aware that I wasn't a natural and had to work harder than anyone else. I've always thought I'm a lot more Ronaldo than I am Messi. What motivates you is fear and attacking yourself to go, if you don't do that, you're going to look like a prick. If you don't get that, this is going to happen and everyone hates you.
Yeah. It's been amazing talking to you. Thanks so much.
What a pleasure.
You've been so open and so much I didn't know. Before we get into today's Class Clown, just a quick word to let you know today's episode is sponsored by Surfshark VPN, which can help you with everything from saving money to content streaming and, of course, keeping your personal info secure. I have an exclusive offer I'll be telling you about later in the show, which you can access by hitting the link in the episode description. Right, let's dive into today's Class Clown. Your career, certainly seemingly from the outside, and maybe you experienced it, you felt it differently, but it rocketed. It
did when I was always pretty good.
I remember there was a picture of you. You were the poster boy for the Comedian in Brighton.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, for some reason, you never happened to play it when I had been watching. So I kind of missed you. I just know you as there's the guy who's as I say, the poster boy for Comedian. And then it's Mock the Week.
Yeah.
And at that point in time,
that's
ginormous. So did it feel like a rocket?
It felt subsequently what I was unbelievably grateful for is that from 18 to 26, I was on telly for the first time when I was 26. So I had 8 years.
That's blown my mind, mate.
Yeah.
I thought you were younger.
No.
Wow.
So it was that incredible thing of like
Christ.
having 8 years of like an apprenticeship but
that's not what I thought at all.
It's funny, isn't it? But being happy and doing gigs and paying my rent with comedy and all this and and it's sort of a weird thing. There's me and McIntyre both got offered a presenting job for BBC Three that we would, bit like T4, we would do the links in between.
Sure.
And I remember going, I just can't do it because I've got like Cardiff University and I've got the Glees and I've got all these gigs booked in and Lincoln Uni and you know what I mean? So I wanted to be a stand-up rather than, I had like sort of TV opportunities.
But that's confidence, though. Like
I just didn't want to, I didn't want to be a TV presenter. I wanted to be Billy Connolly. It was sort of like, it's the arrogance of youth, really.
Yeah, I didn't really have it myself, but it's wonderful and inspiring to hear that. I hope that someone listens to that and really takes note of that, because it's amazing to have that at a young age.
It's hard, but then it's also that thing of, it's hard turning down money, but if that money will get in the way of what makes your heart beat, then there's no need to do it. Like, it's sort of like genuinely going to Lincoln Uni and doing new material every time and comparing and feeling like a rock star and getting better. And this kind of, like, it's the thing I love about stand-up. You're chasing your kind of, like Arizona Bay by Bill Hicks. You're sort of chasing those, or, Definite Article by Izzard, those sort of Monster by Dylan Moran, like those.
Oh my God, that's like my Bible.
But that's what I mean. And I think that's it. It is your Bible. So why would you possibly read out a magazine when you have a Bible?
Well, let's not get into that.
But then you maybe realise that later. And it's like,
yes.
So, but when I did TV, I'd been around the block for long enough that I then had stuff to burn. And that's what, I can't imagine how hard it is for kids coming up now. If you get a live at the Apollo relatively quickly, and then you've got to burn your 20, and then you are now known, and you've got to create on the hoof. It is terrifying.
Yes.
Whereas like someone like me, or kind of like, Mark Watson or, Rod Gilbert, we kind of sort of all broke, Michael as well, broke at a similar time. And we had like 3 Edinburgh shows to go, I'll do that
amazing.
Bit, or I'll do that bit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm wondering, you get that there's an opportunity there at 26?
Mm-hmm.
Do you say, yeah. For me, and I'm comparing this to myself, I suppose, but also other people I know, at 26, for some people, that's like in your 20s is a period where you're at your most chaotic.
Yeah.
Do you know? I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to get offered to you in your 20s in terms of drink and drugs and partying. And I wonder, how did you avoid that? But also, what gave you the kind of, what do you think, if you look back, what do you think gave you the constitution to avoid that? Because you could have easily, I know what it feels like to have that gig, to have that rush. You could have easily, your life could go one way. You could scupper all those opportunities.
I think probably because my guiding stars were, you know, Kitson and Ross Noble and John Oliver. So those were my kind of three, you know, I was mates with John and Dan and I would gig with them regularly, and Ross was this kind of like cosmic force that I was aware of and kind of wanted to emulate. And because I was desperate to, you know, try and get on Mount Rushmore with them,
yes,
it didn't matter how well my gigs were going. I would look at Kitson or Ross or John and just go, well, I'm nowhere near them. So I was chasing geniuses.
Yes.
And that's kind of what it felt like. So it was kind of like I had no time to kind of, you know, pat myself on the back. I remember touring with Kitson when I was, you know, and I was decent. So I'm like 23 at this point, you know, and so I do half an hour before him, and he just come on. It was like we did 2 university tours. It was just a different level. Where and also he didn't drink, and so you know, so it was this kind of like I was looking at him like the ultimate Jedi. So I was just kind of right. He doesn't drink. I'm not going to drink because I want to. I'm desperate to try and get to that level. I'll never get there. I don't think anyone will. He's just the most perfect comedy. You know, he looks funny. He sounds funny. He's so clever. He's so charming. He's so self-deprecating. He can do anything. He's this perfect, vaporous comedy gas. And I would just watch him. I remember seeing him do a gig once, and he just pulled stuff out of his pocket. He just did an hour about the stuff in his pocket, and it was hilarious. And so it was kind of. So I think basically this quest to try and get to that level was what it was. It was so much more. It gave me so much more desire than going and get pissed.
Getting shit faced.
Big. Like had I had different role models, then maybe do you know what I mean? It's like if I was hanging out with kind of comics that were brilliant but slightly more kind of, you know,
hedonistic.
I probably would have done that in a similar way. Like Mark Maron speaks about that. He was hanging out with
Sam Kinison.
With Kinison.
Exactly.
So he did that thing, and I think there's a lot to it. Like, who are your guiding stars to kind of go, oh, okay, I kind of, you know, I want to be like that. And I think it's cyclical. It's like you see a lot of people at the minute. There's a lot of people doing that on stage, like Shane Gillis.
And
it's sort of like holding that like that. And before
and doing that.
Yeah, exactly. There was a lot of Acaster for a while.
Right.
There was kind of quite a lot of me. There was a lot of Stewart, and you know, and it's you end up mimicking, and I mimicked, you know, Ross and Dan and John, and they were all pretty clean living, you know, and they all had desires to be, you know, as good as they could be. So that was it, I think.
And also, I think that it probably helps, and I hope you don't mind me, you know, putting this out there, but I think it helps. Like, it sounds like, again, I keep going back to this, what feels like a kind of happy home. You came from, there was a happy, positive background that, that's, you know, that seems like can help people stay on track.
Well, what I remember when I was 21, so I just left university and I was working part-time with the RAC and I was living at home, and Dad was like, look, if you want to be a...
Where were you, the RA?
The RAC. So I was working part-time with the RAC and I was trying to be a comic. My dad said, just give up the RAC. You don't have to pay any rent, but just go for it for a year. And
that's amazing.
If you're not a comedian in a year, then we'll have another plan. But
that's amazing.
But don't, like, it was kind of, you know, don't half-arse it. So I kind of had this sort of like ticking time bomb. And literally with like 2 weeks before my kind of year was out, I got signed by Avalon. And then that kind of changed everything. And then they would book me gigs. And I think also I've always had and will always have that kind of imposter syndrome. And it kind of happens, if you go to America and you're backstage at like some comedy club in New York and you're then, they don't know who the fuck you are and you're trying to impress them.
Yeah.
So maybe that's it really. It's kind of, so my mum loves me an incredible amount. My dad's fairly indifferent to me. And I think that is the perfect kind of,
cocktail.
It is like in a way, like I'm always trying to impress my dad. Like my dad used to come to watch whenever we do Good News or the Sky Show, the Russell Howard Hour. He would come up and he'd always go on about how great the guests were. He never said, like, do you know what I mean? We had a newsreader on once. He was fine. And my dad came off and went, "Oh, she was class, wasn't she?" Like that. And it was like, are you deliberately trying to kind of get in my head? It's Fiona Bruce. Like, Fiona Bruce is an outstanding broadcaster, but I'm funnier than Fiona Bruce. Surely, Dad. But yeah, so
when's her Netflix special out?
But I think that's what, so I always had this kind of, I had to kind of achieve to kind of impress my dad and kind of, not ever, I still don't have to get a proper job. So that was definitely part of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And he said don't half-arse it as well. So there you have you got that? Well, actually, it kind of links to something I wanted to ask you. Well timed.
Thank you.
The fizzy drink. Did you know, or when did you decide that being a comedian, and a successful one at that, and a great one, was going to require work ethic? Because, I think for a lot of people, just from when I started, when you're an open spot, I think when you go through comedy, you kind of you can almost see the point in the stages of someone's career when they realised, oh, I've really got to work at this. And I remember not seeing someone on a circuit for a while, and then the next time I see them, they had improved vastly. And you go, oh right, you realised in between the two gigs that you've got to work at this. This isn't gonna be a fluke. When did that instinct come for you?
Well, again, I'm very lucky because Mark Olbert used to run loads of gigs in Bristol, and so he would run a gig. He started hosting Jesters on a Wednesday, which had professional comedians on, but you could do an open spot there. He had a night on Sunday, which was an open spot night called the Bunch of Grapes. And he also had a gig on the Tuesday called the Richmond Springs, which would have like up and coming acts that weren't like, alongside a local act. So let's say Rob Rouse would host, would close. He got a Concords down there once as well. So he'd get like Kitson did it, good acts.
Yeah.
But kind of people that we'd sort of, known. So I had this sort of 3 gig week alongside, gigs that I could also get. So, I was doing lots of Up the Creeks, lots of Glees, and I was in at the Comedia and all these kind of places and had these, what it's like where you're just getting these little, I'm in at the Last Laugh in Sheffield, fantastic. And
Yeah.
But then I always had that kind of, at the very least, I would have 3 gigs to do. And the only people that came to the Bunch of Grapes and the Richmond Springs, bizarrely, there was this sort of troupe of jugglers. So it was like 25 jugglers that used to come and watch us all the time. And so it was that thing about you'd be like, fuck man, the jugglers are back. So I always had to have new ideas. Otherwise I would have bored the jugglers. So we luckily, I think that was the big difference from Bristol, that from my, like, if you think about that scene, it kind of like John Robbins, John Richardson, me, Will Hodgson, and latterly Finn Taylor. Like what that scene all has is lots of those comedians have lots of stuff. We never had an iron tight 5 or a 10. You know what I mean? We kind of got good when we were doing 20s because we had to have new stuff.
Right.
Whereas I think if the ecosystem of London was so different that somebody could have that perfect 5 and just kick the shit out of those gigs because the audience were always different.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So I just didn't have that kind of that opportunity to create a new, to create like a bulletproof 5.
Yeah.
So I had to always turn it over. So that was from 19. I had to kind of, I've got to have a new thing. And then gradually those little ideas would make their way into my proper sets that I would do at like the Comedia or the Last Laugh. So I had this kind of quite early system. And then what kind of like jet propelled it was doing Mock the Week.
Oh, God.
And then seeing
My God.
Frankie Boyle, who sort of had that, it sort of happens every so often where someone is the funniest man in the country. Like Johnny Vaughan had it when I was a kid. But do you know what I mean? That he was, he's the funniest man, and everyone was, and Frankie had that. And he had such laser guided joke writing that I was just like, I was so in awe and impressed. And then you were like, well, he's got people writing for him. Fuck me. So he's already the best sniper and someone's giving him bullets. This is crazy. So then I would get a friend of mine to write with me. And then I was almost, writing with that guy. And then I started going, fuck me, he's so good. I'm going to have to start working on a Sunday and a Monday and a Tuesday. And then that, but because I didn't want to look like an idiot. Like it was real pressure every week to go, right, I get the papers and I go through them and I try and write ideas. I also loved it. So that wasn't a problem, but it was definitely, I've always had, I guess the answer is I've always had targets, whether it was the Jugglers or every Tuesday, every Tuesday you have to have new material on Mock the Week. You can't just do your stuff. It has to be. And then when I did the Topical show, it always had to be new. And then doing Good News, I was in a room with Dan Atkinson, Steve Williams, Carl Minns, and then later on Kiri Pritchard McLean and Steve Hall.
Yeah.
We would sit there and we would write it, and I wrote every word with them. I've never had anything written for me. I wouldn't do it.
Kind of sent in.
Haven't got the skills. Haven't got the skill to kind of, I know comics that receive their tours that have basically been written for them and they kind of work them up. And
I've
then
heard of that. That's
it's
crazy.
insane to me. I couldn't be, because I don't have that I need to know what's funny from my head.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's kind of what I love.
That's sort of authorship as well.
Yeah, totally. So it's that, but then also there's nowhere else. So there was no opportunity to like rest on your laurels, because when we were doing Good News, we would literally, the show would go out on the Thursday night. We were writing on Thursday day, writing on Friday day. Saturday day, I would write on my own. I would put the show together. Sunday day,
wow,
we were back in the office writing. We did a rehearsal, and then we'd make notes on the rehearsal. And then Monday day, we were perfecting the show. For Tuesday, we'd record the show. Wednesday, I go into the edit. And we do that again. We do that for 12 weeks.
You're exhausting me.
Yeah, it was.
That's a lot.
But because I was young and I had, I was with my girlfriend, but I didn't have kids. And I genuinely, I have a son now, and my life has changed for the better. And I'm trying to compartmentalize my creativity and what I enjoy from stand-up alongside the bionic thrill he gives me just by, like, he came up to me the other day, he just crawled up to me and he put his head there and he just rested his head on my inner arm. And you're like, well, who knew that's what my inner arm was for? who knew how good that felt? And it was so, like, it makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It was so lovely. But I didn't have that.
Yeah.
When I was from 26 to 45, I was like this fucking weird CEO of my own business. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of like, we need a new iPhone, but kind of that's what it felt like. And that's the hardest thing, like being a stand-up, writing for yourself, and then going in and doing a TV show, and everyone's looking to you, and you have to be, the leader and then you realize actually your job is to be the front man of the band, and all the people that worked on my show, the researchers, the producers, the people came up with the like Adam that used to book the guests, that everyone was in on it together. It was such a team effort, but it was an effort. It was, and I don't know how some of the guys I wrote with had children. I have no idea how they did it. I have no idea how Michael McIntyre became the biggest stand-up in the country with toddlers.
Yeah.
It is insane. It's so impressive.
Well, the other side of the flip side of that is perhaps that love can give you, a different kind of drive to go and succeed for them. Producer Adam, I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. Do you ever leave the house without your trousers or pants on?
I haven't for a while.
Well, that's what happens when you go on the internet without a VPN. The stuff you'd rather keep private becomes very public. And that is why today's episode sponsor is Surfshark, and they are the best VPN in the game. I wasn't using a VPN until a few months ago, and I have to say it's a game changer. You know how we're all signed up to different streaming services, but it gets very frustrating because they have certain content available in some countries but not in others. This solves all of that. Using Surfshark VPN means you can access content that is restricted in your region but available elsewhere in the world. Not only is that useful at home, but also when traveling. I was in Australia recently, and there was a couple of British shows I wanted to catch up on that are blocked over there, but I used Surfshark and boom, instant access. Adam, have you found Surfshark to be useful?
Yeah, do you know what I use it for? I'm like a fiend for traveling and a good bargain. So I use it to kind of log in from different countries to find out which countries get the best deals on certain flights. So I'm going to Thailand in January and used it to get the flights a little bit cheaper.
Okay, I didn't know you could do that. There you go, cheaper flights, more streaming content. What's not to love? Surfshark make it really simple. Unlimited devices, clean interface, no nonsense. So here's the deal. Go to surfshark.com/classclown. That's surfshark.com/classclown and use the code ClassClown at checkout. You'll get an additional 4 months of Surfshark VPN added to your plan. The link is in the episode description, so you literally can't miss it. Just tap it. Your future self, your bank account, and your streaming library will thank you later. And just a quick message to say that my brand new UK tour, This Is Torture, is on sale now. You can go to SeanNWalsh.com and get tickets there if you're out of Christmas ideas, or if you want to get yourself a ticket and then just pretend it was a thoughtful gift for someone else. That's what I would do. Right, back to the show. But it's it's remarkable listening to that journey of yours, and I wonder, was it comedy that gave you the kind, because you loved it so much? Did comedy bring out these attributes of yours of being on it and the effort and all of that goes into that? Or was there any traces of that before stand-up? Were you good at getting in your homework? Were you in sport? Were you committed to training? Is there any link, or was it just kind of comedy transformed almost your brain into being a different kind of workhorse?
So with football, I was kind of, I was always good, but then I would try and watch videos to see how kind of Chris Waddle did moves, or kind of
That's a big yes. I don't think
it's all that kind of stuff. I'd try and figure out, I'd record matches and try and figure out, Giggs did this.
Oh my God.
But so I'd be in the back garden trying to figure out, how did Giggs do that? And then
oh wow.
Yeah.
So it is kind of there. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And then when I did exams at school, I wouldn't really try, and then I'd go, right, it's exam time. So I would go into the library for my A-levels, and I found out all the old answers for previous exams. And then I would look at all of them, and then I would figure out, okay, so these are the recurring questions, right? And I would teach myself a year's worth of work and then do well in exams.
That's amazing.
Because I'd sort of literally gone, right, zone in. So I could kind of, I've always been quite good under pressure. It's definitely a thing.
I was ripping a bong underneath the exam hall and blowing cannabis smoke through the hole in what was our ceiling into the exam hall.
Yes, well, That's definitely a better story.
Well, yeah.
Rather than 6 hours of like the fucking Rocky montage. To me, looking at like kind of what's a simile, what's a metaphor,
Yeah, but you didn't have to get to your mid-30s to go, I should probably sort this out, actually.
Yeah, but it's funny though, isn't it? It's like, I don't know. It's like, but where does that come from? Where like, why were you like that?
Well, I've got mine because my theory entirely different.
But my theory on you is that interesting because when you were doing your show, you always looked like somebody who was a naturally funny, and then it's sort of that you got the TV show and you look like someone that was, and I don't mean this in the, but you look like you could kind of wing it. Is that fair or is that not? Whereas I was acutely aware that I wasn't a natural and had to work harder than anyone else.
Well, I think that's a. I didn't really love any of the things I was doing through my 20s. And it goes back to what you said at the very beginning, I think. I also, like you, just wanted to be a stand-up. I wanted to be an actor as well. I wanted to be a comic actor.
Yeah.
And where comedy was, when I turned up into the scene, it didn't really play to my strengths. I didn't want to be doing any of it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that. I really didn't have that confidence to say no. I didn't believe in myself. It's a very different thing. It's like, we've got this show for you. I better do that because I'm probably going to end up on the street. And it's a very different thing. I came from it was.
So what did you want to do? Like with like in terms
mine would have just would have been like it would have been like Dylan Moran's. It would have been, I did stand up and there was Black Books and that's
yeah.
And obviously, but when we entered the scene, it was Mock, it was Cats, it was I didn't know. I just didn't know what I was doing really. I was just sat behind there going, Christ, I wish I was doing anything else.
Yeah.
Than being behind this desk. It didn't play to any, we're all, comedians have their own attributes and skills and all of that, and that just wasn't mine. I needed to be in a scene.
But imagine what it must be like now. It must be so, because comedians have to be like, it strikes me that,
oh my God.
But they're a bit like, like the second-hand car dealership guy that used to do their own adverts on local radio. That's what comedians have become now.
Oh,
but your skill has to be self-promotion.
Absolutely.
And if you can get that right, kind of doesn't matter what you do, because what you do is kind of interchangeable with a lot of people. But if you can...
There's a lot of that.
It's everything. But if you can convince people, and what's really interesting, some people have managed to convince people that they are their project, so they want them to succeed.
Yeah.
So they're being
it's very powerful.
Pushed up. It's really odd. And then you watch it and you're like, oh, they're fine.
And also identity, and I don't mean identity politics, I mean identifying with someone is...
It's great, mate. You can be massive. You can tour if you eat your dinner and say bosh. These are wild
That's
times.
exactly what I mean. And people identify with you. That's almost stronger than the thing that we're talking about, which is stand-up comedy, the thing that you went to Jesters and I went to Comedia. Yeah. And there were these incredibly funny people that the world didn't know about yet. And their name was introduced and they came out of the curtain and you were just blown away. I remember the first time I saw Stephen talking to someone in the crowd, the camera would, if it was my biopic, it would like zoom into my eyes, my pupils would dilate, it'd be like, what is this? This is the greatest moment of my life.
And he is and was brilliant at it.
Oh, Stephen!
Like, you know what I mean? It's like
phenomenal. For me, I don't want any other MC bringing me on. He's the guy. He sets the crowd up perfectly for you to go and have the gig of your dreams.
Yep.
But yes, that's what. So it was really interesting listening to that work ethic and you having got a bit of that before doing stand-up.
Yeah. I just, but it's also that thing of going, it's like, you look at someone like Johnny Vegas. I remember gigging with him when I was at 21, I think. And he was just he did this thing. It's one of the most incredible things I've ever seen on stage. He was like fucking top off. Do you know what I mean? He's like, he was in Bath Cadillacs, and he goes, "What do you do?" to this woman. And she She goes, she goes, that's just embarrassing like that. And he was like, what? Tell me what you do. It's like 300 people in there. And she's like, oh no, it's really embarrassing. And he went, embarrassing? I'll tell you embarrassing. My dad had a job, right? And there was 3 of us, me 2 brothers, and we were all allowed a bath on our own. And I would get the towel, and I used to wrap that around my penis, and I would pull it tight, and I would lay there in the bath doing that. And then my dad lost his job. And he's crying, I had to have a bath with my 2 brothers. And I pulled that towel down and I wrenched it around my dick. And my brother said, Johnny, you're going to jail. That's embarrassing. What do you do? And then she told him. And it was this kind of like sort of like sabotaging story where he made himself so wretched and funny so that she could basically go, I work in accounting, like that. And then he would sort of spin it on that. But it was, do you know what I mean? I was like going, I don't have that. Like when you saw Johnny Vegas in full flow, it was like, God, man, it's sort of a bit like, I've always thought I'm a lot more Ronaldo than I am Messi, where it's like, right, I've got to figure out how to kind of, use my left leg a bit more, whereas Messi was just this sort of mercurial genius.
Well, yeah.
But do you know what I mean?
It's both very good.
Both very yeah, but Ronaldo's nowhere near as good as Messi, but he made himself as good as him. And I think there's something that's kind of, there's kind of that I've always had that kind of, like whether it's Kitson or Vegas or Frankie Boyle or any proper naturals, you just go, Jesus Christ, how are they this good? I've got to figure out a way of getting better.
Is that part of a competitive? Because
it's not wanting to look shit.
Right.
It's that kind of fear of failure, and it's kind of. I remember like Johnny Wilkinson. I was reading about him or read his book or something, and he basically said when he kicked I'm not even into rugby, I don't know how he'd say it, but he kicked the goal to win the World Cup.
Yeah,
he did it. That's a tangible moment of perfection and just a tick.
Oh my God.
And his brain went, fucking, I nearly missed that. Like as it went over. But as success becomes concrete, his brain went, you nearly fucking missed that. So the next day he was out training, and I identified to that like so much, because you just go, it's that. But you can't. But if you are that way, it's sort of like there's no. You almost don't know. It's only years later that you're like, well, maybe you achieved those things in spite of that voice.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
But at the time, you're kind of like, you're aware that what motivates you is fear and attacking yourself to go, if you don't do that, you're going to look like a prick. If you don't get that, this is going to happen and everyone hates you.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So you go, okay, fine. The way to get rid of all of those things, if I work really hard and then I do the show and I do the tour and then you finish the last arena and you're like, whew, and then you didn't enjoy any of it, but you did because you were going through the motions. You were doing what you needed to do. But to kind of be in it and kind of sort of applaud yourself and kind of enjoy it, would be madness. Because it would be, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, maybe that's the way you are.
Yeah.
But show me a comic that in the middle of their set is like, this is going great, and they're not great. You're like,
yeah.
I've seen Kitson have gigs that are just insane. You're like, I was great. He goes, yeah, it's fine.
Were you looking, before we wrap it up, and it's been amazing talking to you. Thanks so much.
What a pleasure.
You've been so open, and so much I didn't know. And it's brilliant. And I've always been a huge fan. And especially watching you live, it's absolutely incredible. We all know what you can do on telly, and it's amazing. But when you get to see it live and see you live, it's what you were describing about seeing other comedians. Seeing you live is eye opening. It's absolutely amazing.
Nice of you to say, man.
So thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure.
And talking to me. And just quickly, I wonder we kind of touched on it, but just in terms of when you're a kid, you're dreaming of being a comedian. Mm-hmm. Is there any element of dreaming of being or fantasizing about being a star? and the kind of difference between those two things as a stand-up comedian, and then like, you know, oh my God,
I don't think,
my own TV show or film. Was there any of that there?
Do you know what's really funny? It's so funny because I've got so I get my my hair cut in a Turkish barber, and this guy keeps, I've had it like 3 times in the last 6 months. He keeps going, snipping away. He goes, well, so when you make film, so I probably not. We sort of spoke about this last time. I go, I don't think I'm going to make films. He's like, I'd like to see you in film. I go, yeah, I know. Just, I think those days are gone, man. And he's then showing me in Turkey, a lot of comedians. He shows me a clip of a Turkish comedian being funny in a film in Turkish, and I'm going, yeah, it's great. And he's like, I'd like to see you do that. And yeah, I know, but this ain't happening. So I was trying to explain to him, I think I'm just a comedian. He went, just live now? So, yeah, and he goes, TV? I said, I don't think it's happening. Like, but I've always had, I don't know, I've never really wanted to do, I scratched an itch. I wrote a film with Steve Williams called Gert Last Christmas, and I sort of realised I enjoyed doing it, but I didn't like being an actor. And I've never really had that kind of desire to kind of do anything other than stand-up, because you get to do everything within it.
Yes.
And also, I'm at my happiest doing a gig.
There's so much acting involved in your stand-up anyway, you know, it's wonderful.
But your
characters.
You're kind of then, I like hanging out with comics, I like talking about comedy with comics. So if I go to like a showbiz party, so our friend Jimmy, we've seen each other at some of his parties. Who do I end up talking to at those parties? Stand-up comedians.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
Everyone else is kind of mingling like that, and I'll be in the corner with like you, or Stephen Merchant, or Greg Davies, or Roisin, and then Jimmy comes over and goes, "Why don't you speak to someone else?" Like that. Because what can I possibly fucking talk to Stephen Hawking about? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm going to go over to Monica Lewinsky and go, all right? Like, it's Arlo. It's the lead singer out the Killers. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so I just like, I like the world. I like the shared language, and I like that's it really. It's kind of like doing a gig and then being in a green room and talking with comics.
With the Strays.
Yeah, I just love it. I kind of meeting people that I admire and comics that I admire. That's kind of my world. I don't know. It's like, I think like someone like Graham Norton, like watching that as a chat show, it just does nothing for me. It does nothing because it's just actors telling their stories.
Yes,
that everyone's fawned over. But to me, it's like, I hang out with comedians. These stories are, for me, the great stories on Graham Norton. It's when Greg goes on, or Miriam Margolyes, or like actual funny people, as opposed to Tom Cruise telling an anecdote in a beautiful way. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So it's kind of, I'm in love with the job, and I'm in love with the people, and I kind of, there's such a kindred spirit, and there's so few arseholes in our world. That's what's incredible. Like really, like you could name the dicks in comedy on your hand. There's so few and far between, because we've all been through that same process of having our ego smashed and had every shame vein open.
Oh God,
and we've all collectively, we've felt that experience. We probably know what it feels like to be jilted on your wedding day, because we've had that same level of like, fuck man, yeah, I've been there. You know what I mean?
I don't know if you're like me, and this might sound insensitive, but I think you'll get it. I saw again, I'm not going to name this person, it's not fair, but he's one of my best friends in comedy. And loads of things went wrong at this gig the other day or a few weeks back, that he ended up having a really tough gig. I don't think I've ever seen him have a tough gig. Yeah. And he ends up having a tough one. And I'm sat there in the green room waiting for him to come in. And he walks in, and I just piss myself laughing because he's my mate. He's my mate, I could completely let go, because I know he knows. I know how good he is. I love him. He's fantastic. So the fact that he struggled was just, I think it was the best day of my life.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I remember being at the O2 and getting a joke round the wrong way. And so like it was a spoonerism. So I fucked the gag. So it was like, why did the road cross the chicken? Something like that.
Sure.
And the crowd are like utterly baffled. It's like 15,000 people like that. And I hear this fucking laugh. Like, and it's my brother who's in a private box with him and his bloody mate, and because he knows what the joke's meant to be, and he's like, ah! But can you imagine that joy of seeing your older brother fuck up so spectacularly like that? And then I go, without telling the audience he's my brother, I go, fuck you, you fucking piece of shit. Like, and I become 15 me again. I go, I'll fucking kick your fucking face in like that. And the crowd are like, whoa, mate. But there's something so joyous about that, isn't there? When you're kind of, I remember my wife having that once of like, I was doing a gig in Edinburgh and fuck, I was dying so hard. And I just remember her at the back just howling. Just because she knew how it was meant to go, and you're just like looking up at her going, but it's that lovely.
Yeah. When me and I'll leave you, me and Donnelly did Melbourne Comedy Festival. We're on a package show. Occasionally, he'd be having a tough gig. We'd all have a tough gig at some point. But whenever me or him had a tough gig, you would hear the other one in the audience when the joke bombs go.
Oh, really? Great. Fuck me. My favourite thing for that, Andrew Bird, the brilliant Andrew Bird, fantastic comedian. He used to do the warm-up for Pointless.
Yeah.
And it was, exactly.
Ouch.
And we would be doing our show, our Sky show, in a studio next door. So for like, if there was a little break for what we might have 20 minutes just to cheer ourselves up, we'd kind of go, should we just nip in and watch Birdie? So we'd go in there, and he was trying to like get this fucking audience of pensioners who had just sort of sat there looking at Richard Osman like that, and then Birdie was like, "Here, everyone," and I remember he just saw us. He saw us, and we were all like behind the camera going like that, and he just went, "Oh, fuck off," like that, and like all this sea of grey were like, "Oh, oh," like that, and he went, "Oh no, it's just mama." But he looked so, it's so cruel.
Oh yeah,
because it's so hard.
Yeah, it's the
and we just
hardest
wandered
thing on
in
earth.
from our like lovely little. We're just having our lunch. Like that, just fuck. It was great.
Oh well, mate.
What fun!
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Nice one.
Thank you, Sean.
Cheers, dude.
See ya.
There you go. The wonderful Russell Howard. What's there to say apart from that was absolutely incredible. So nice to hear him open up about how he became the brilliant comedian he is. If you do want to sign up to our Patreon and support the podcast, you could go to patreon.com/classclown. There you'll get ad-free access. You'll also get part 1 and part 2 together. But again, thank you to Russell Howard. And I urge you desperately to go and see him live. He's absolutely fantastic. And of course, he has a new podcast out now. But that's all for now. I've been Seann Walsh, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.